My ex could satisfy me in ways you never could, she said during a fight. I stopped arguing, packed a bag, and left that night. She called the next day crying, begging me to come home, saying she didn't mean it. I said, "Go call your ex. I'm sure he'll satisfy your apologies too." Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The rain tapped a relentless rhythm against the kitchen window, a dull soundtrack to a fight that was going nowhere. Again, you just don't listen, Alex. It's not about the dishes. It's about what it means. Jenna's voice was a sharp instrument, honed by 2 hours of circular arguing. I leaned against the counter, my head throbbing in time with the rain. I'd come home from a 10-hour day to a dark apartment and a silent girlfriend. The trigger had been a coffee mug I'd left in the sink that morning. It had spiraled from there into the vast, shadowy territory of her feeling unseen and unappreciated. "I do listen, Jen," I said, forcing my voice to stay level. "My go-to mode, problem solver. I hear you saying you're overwhelmed. So let's fix it. Hire a cleaner twice a month. I'll set it up tomorrow." "It's not about a cleaner," she exploded, throwing her hands up. "It's the principle. It's the fact that I have to ask. Don't you see? I shouldn't have to be your manager. I need a partner who anticipates, who understands what I need without a damn spreadsheet." A flashback, brief and bitter, flickered behind my eyes. Me, sitting with her at this very table a year ago, holding her while she sobbed after her father walked out on her mom. My shirt was damp with her tears. "You're my rock," she'd whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." The memory dissolved into the present tension. "I'm trying to understand," I said, the fatigue seeping into my words. "I'm literally offering a solution to the stress you're describing. What do you need me to anticipate? Tell me, and I'll do it." "Ugh, that's it. Tell me, and I'll do it," she mimicked, her voice a cruel parody of mine. "So transactional. Where's the passion, Alex? Where's the instinct? It's like you're emotionally colorblind." Another flashback. Her, smiling up at me from a hospital bed 2 years ago, her appendix removed. I'd slept in the awful chair for 3 nights, bringing her favorite magazines, managing her calls, handling everything so she could just heal. "You take such good care of me," she'd said, squeezing my hand. That man in the memory felt like a stranger to the one being eviscerated in this too bright kitchen. I took a deep breath, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Okay, I'm not perfect. I'm logical. I see a problem. I want to fix it. That's how I'm wired. But you're saying you need something else. Something more. So help me out. What does that look like? What do you need that I'm not giving you?" I asked it honestly. A final, desperate attempt to bridge the canyon that had opened up between us. I wanted the blueprint. I would have studied it, memorized it, built it for her with my own hands. She went very still. The angry flush on her cheeks deepened. Her eyes, usually a warm hazel, were dark and glinting. The air left the room. This was it, the pivot point. I didn't know it yet, but I just handed her the detonator. "What do I need?" she said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. It wasn't loud anymore. It was intimate, venomous. "You want a list? You want it spelled out for your logical, problem-solving brain?" "Yes," I said, bracing myself. "I do." She took a step closer. The ghost of a smile, utterly devoid of warmth, touched her lips. "Fine. You want to know? Fine." She paused, letting the silence stretch, ensuring she had every atom of my attention. "My ex, Mark, could satisfy me in ways you never could." The words didn't register at first. They were just sounds, bizarre and out of context, like hearing a line from a foreign film. Then they hit. A cold, sharp spear of pure nullity drove straight through my sternum. The background noise of the rain, the hum of the refrigerator, the very blood in my own veins, it all just stopped. The world became a silent, high-definition picture of her face, twisted in triumphant cruelty. She wasn't done. Empowered by the impact, she leaned in. Emotionally, physically, all of it. He knew how to make a woman feel wanted, desired, like he couldn't breathe without her. "You," she let out a short, derisive laugh. "You make me feel like a task on a to-do list. You're just safe, reliable, like a comfortable old chair. And I'm tired of being comfortable, Alex. I'm starving. Satisfy." The word echoed, obscene and brutal. Never could. Another flashback, this one involuntary and devastating. Her, beneath me in this very apartment, in the early days. Her eyes wide, her whisper in the dark. I've never felt like this with anyone. A lie. All of it a lie. The pain was astronomical, a supernova going off inside my ribcage, but it was instantly vaporized by a vacuum of absolute zero. The love, the worry, the future plans, the shared memories, they didn't burn, they simply ceased to exist, turned to ash, and was swept away by the chill wind of her truth. I looked at her, really looked. I saw the woman I'd planned a life with, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not sorrow. An utter, profound emptiness. I didn't say a word. I turned on my heel and walked out of the kitchen. "Where are you going?" she called after me, her voice tinged with the first note of confusion. "We're not done talking." I walked down the short hall to our bedroom. Our bedroom. The past tense settled over me like dust. I went to the closet and pulled my old gym duffel from the top shelf. "Oh, so you're just going to run away?" Her voice was closer now. She stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, but the defiant posture was starting to look brittle. "That's what you do when things get hard. You shut down." I ignored her. With a calmness that felt alien, I opened my dresser. Socks, boxers, t-shirts. I packed methodically, folding nothing, just placing them in the bag. Passport from the lockbox. Laptop and charger from the desk. "Alex, stop it." The confusion was giving way to panic. "What are you doing? Stop being dramatic." I zipped the bag shut. The sound was final. I slung it over my shoulder, picked up my work laptop case, and turned to face her. She was blocking the doorway. I looked at her. My eyes met hers, and I saw her flinch. She was looking for the love, the hurt, the anger, the fuel for her fire. She found nothing, just a flat, exhausted vacancy. "Move, please," I said. My voice was quiet, perfectly even. It didn't sound like mine. "No, you don't get to just leave. We have to talk about this." "There's nothing left to say," I said, the words as simple and true as any I'd ever spoken. I didn't push past her. I just waited. After a tense 3-second standoff, something in my expression, the complete lack of anything she could grab onto, made her step aside, her face pale. I walked down the hall, past the kitchen where the ghost of our life together still hung in the air. I grabbed my car keys from the bowl by the door. "If you walk out that door, Alex, don't you dare come back," she shouted, the panic morphing into a last-ditch attempt at control. I didn't answer. I opened the door. The sound of the rain rushed in. I stepped into the damp, cold night and pulled the door shut behind me. The click of the latch was softer than a heartbeat, but it was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. It was the sound of the end. I got in my car. I didn't slam the door. I started the engine. I didn't peel out. I drove slowly, aimlessly, for 20 minutes, the heater blasting against a chill that came from deep inside my bones. I found a motel on the highway edge of town, a place of fluorescent lights and stale air. I paid in cash for 2 nights. In the silent, anonymous room, I sat on the edge of the stiff bed. I placed my phone on the nightstand. I watched it. I waited. The emptiness inside was complete. The man who loved Jenna was gone, left behind in that apartment with the coffee mug and the shattered future. The man in this motel room was just a void. And in that void, there was a terrible, quiet peace. The fight was over. She had won by destroying the battlefield. And as I sat there in the silence, I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would never fight for her again. The motel room air smelled of antiseptic cleaner and stale cigarettes. I sat in the dark, the only light the pale glow from the parking lot security lamp bleeding through the thin curtains. My phone, face up on the nightstand, was a silent, black rectangle. It stayed that way for exactly 17 minutes. Then it lit up. The screen flashed with her name and a picture from happier times. Her laughing at the beach, her head thrown back. The vibration was a frantic, buzzing skitter against the particle board nightstand. It went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it happened again. And again. I didn't touch it. I watched the calls come in like a scientist observing a phenomenon. Call, voicemail, call, voicemail. A text notification popped up, then another, stacking over her photo. I finally reached over and picked it up. Not to answer. I went to settings. I turned off the ringer. I turned off vibration. I left the notifications on. I needed to see the data stream. I needed proof of the transition. The pivot from cruelty to regret. It was the only thing that felt real. I opened the text thread. Jenna, 12:14 a.m. Alex, where are you? Jenna, 12:18 a.m. This is insane. Come home so we can talk like adults. Jenna, 12:31 a.m. I'm worried about you. Please answer. The tone was all wrong. It was the tone of someone who'd misplaced their wallet, not detonated their relationship. I swiped them away. I opened the voicemail. The first one was from the initial flurry. Her voice was tight, controlled, a thin layer of concern over steel. Alex, it's me. Look, I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. You driving off in the middle of the night isn't safe. Call me and tell me where you are. We'll talk. I deleted it. The second one came 20 minutes later. The control was cracking. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that about Mark. It was a low blow. I was just so frustrated. But you can't just leave. We have a life together. Come home. Please. It was a low blow, not a lie. A tactical error in a fight she still thought we were having. I deleted it. The third voicemail arrived at 1:47 a.m. This one was different. The sound quality was muffled, wet. She was crying. Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean any of it. I was just angry. I wanted to hurt you because I felt hurt. Please come home. He was awful. You know he was. You're everything he wasn't. You're stable and good and you love me. Please, Alex, please answer. I love you. There it was. The full reversal. The weaponized memory was now a lie. My stability, once her insult, was now my virtue. I felt a distant, clinical interest. This was the predictable script. I pressed delete. The texts continued through the night, a linear map of her escalating panic. Jenna, 2:23 a.m. I can't sleep. The bed is too big. I'm so sorry. Jenna, 3:11 a.m. please. Just a text. Let me know you're safe. Jenna, 5:02 a.m. Are you really going to throw away 3 years over one sentence? That last one made me breathe out a quiet, humorless laugh into the dark room. The framing. I was throwing it away. By not accepting her nuclear strike and then her apology. By refusing to participate in the cycle anymore. When the gray dawn light crept into the room, I moved. The emptiness inside had solidified into a cold, clear purpose. I was a ghost, and ghosts are efficient. I called my boss, Greg, at 7 a.m. My voice was flat, professional. Greg, Alex, family emergency. I need to invoke the full remote clause for the foreseeable future. I'll be offline today, but I'll have my laptop and can handle all my deliverables. I'll email HR. Greg, a decent man, heard the toneless finality in my voice. Geez, Alex. Everything okay? Take what you need. We'll cover the stand-up. Thanks. It's under control. It was the first true thing I'd said. I found a short-term rental online, a furnished studio apartment in a complex on the other side of the city. It was available immediately. I paid the deposit with a credit card she wasn't on. I booked it for 3 months. Then I went to the most sterile, corporate task service website I could find. I filled out a form. Item retrieval and packing. Key under mat. Items are in master bedroom closet and office. Marked Alex. Pack all. Delivered to storage unit number 417 at Secure Store on Market ST. I gave them the code to the storage unit I'd just rented online. I attached a photo of my driver's license for verification. I scheduled it for 2 days later, a Tuesday, when she worked her half day at the boutique. I was dissecting our shared life with the emotion of a surgeon removing a necrotic limb. Clean. Precise. No sentiment. My phone continued its silent, illuminating dance. Jenna, 9:15 a.m. You're really not going to answer? After everything? Jenna, 11:30 a.m. I called your office. Greg said you're working remote. What does that mean? What are you doing? Jenna, 4:45 p.m. Fine. Be that way. You were always a coward. You can't handle a real woman with big emotions. Mark was right about you. Mark was right about you. The text was a grenade. It told me everything. She'd already called him. She'd gone to the very source of the poison for comfort. The circle was complete, and I was definitively outside of it. The last faint, phantom twinge of anything, loss, regret, evaporated. It was almost a relief. A week passed. The texts became less frequent, angrier. Jenna, day 5 the task people came. You had strangers pack your things? You're unbelievable. So cold. Jenna, day 7 you're really throwing it all away. I hope it was worth it. I didn't engage. I worked from the sterile studio. I bought a single set of sheets, towels, a coffee maker. I went for long, punishing runs along the river path until my lungs burned and my mind was blank. I joined a 24-hour gym and went at midnight, lifting weights in a silent, mirrored room, watching my form with detached interest. The physical exhaustion was the only thing that felt good. It was a clean, honest pain. Then, the inflection point. A text from Sarah, a mutual friend who'd been closer to Jenna. Sarah, week 3. Hey Alex. Look, I don't want to be in the middle, but I'm worried about Jenna. She's not good. She's been drinking a lot. And she's been hanging out with Mark again. I think she called him the night you left. I told her it was a monumentally bad idea, but she won't listen. Just thought you should know. I stared at the message. I felt no jealousy, no anger at Mark, just a profound, weary validation. Of course, the villain from her story, the benchmark for my failure, was also her comfort. It was so tragically predictable, it was almost boring. I typed back, my first communication with anyone in our old world in weeks. Me, thanks for letting me know. That was all. No questions, no emotion, an acknowledgement of data received. The data stream from Jenna shifted again. The anger bled out, replaced by a confused, plaintive tone. Jenna, week 4. Why is he like this? He promised he'd changed. Jenna, week 5. He's so critical. Nothing I do is right. You were never mean to me. Jenna, week 6. 1:18 a.m. He says I'm lucky he came back. Is that true? Am I lucky? The grammar deteriorated. The texts were often late at night. I imagined her on her couch, a bottle of wine empty beside her, typing these confused pleas into the void where I used to be. Then, a voicemail. Her voice was slurred, thick with tears and something else, defeat. Alex, it's me. He moved in. Just for a little while, he said, until he gets on his feet. But he doesn't. He doesn't look for jobs. He uses my car. He ordered a new TV on my Amazon account. I asked him about it, and he got so angry. He said I was materialistic, that I didn't support his process. You always supported me, even when my ideas were dumb. Why did I? I'm so scared, Alex. I don't know what to do. Click. I saved that one. Not out of sympathy, but as a specimen. The full, ironic arc satisfying Mark was now a leech. The man who knew how to make a woman feel wanted was making her feel used and terrified. The final piece of the puzzle came not from her, but from a local news alert on my phone a few days later. I'd set it for City News. The headline was unremarkable. Police seek man in connection with series of rental scams, identity fraud. I almost swiped it away. Then the name in the second paragraph caught my eye. The suspect, identified as Mark D., 32, is known to frequent downtown bars and often targets individuals through former romantic connections, according to victims. A link. I clicked it. There was a grainy DMV photo, handsome in a slick, untrustworthy way. A knowing smirk. Mark. The article detailed it. Sweet-talking former flames. Moving in temporarily. Borrowing financial information for joint investments. Opening lines of credit. Then disappearing. 2 pending warrants. More victims likely. I closed the article. I looked out the window of my quiet, clean studio. The sun was setting. I felt nothing. No triumph. No, I told you so. It was just a factual closure to a chapter I'd already finished reading. My phone lit up one more time that night. Not a text. A voicemail. The last one I would ever listen to. Her voice was a broken whisper, all pride and pretense gone. It was just raw, animal fear. He's gone. He took the cash from the jar. He took my grandmother's necklace. The police were here. They showed me his picture. They asked questions about me. They think I knew. Alex, he's a criminal. Everything he told me was a lie. Everything I said to you, it was all a lie. I have nothing. I am so alone. Please, please call me back. You're the only good thing I ever had. Please. The message ended with a sound that might have been a sob or the phone dropping. I held my phone. I played the message one more time, listening to the sheer, unvarnished wreckage of her life. I felt the vast, quiet space inside me. The peace was still there, undisturbed. Her hurricane was finally hitting shore, but I was hundreds of miles inland, in a place of perfect calm. I selected the voicemail. I pressed delete. Then I went to my settings, found her contact, and scrolled to the bottom. I tapped block this caller. The final, silent severance. Not an act of anger, an act of hygiene. The detachment was complete. The unraveling was hers alone. And from my quiet, empty room, I watched the last thread snap, feeling nothing but the profound, unshakable certainty that I would never get pulled into her chaos again. The middle was over. The silence, finally, was my own. Peace, I discovered, wasn't an absence of noise. It was a presence. The presence of silence you chose, of space that belonged only to you. In the 6 months since I'd walked out, I'd built a life within that quiet. The studio apartment was now just a stopgap memory. I'd bought a small, modern condo with a view of the river. It was full of light, clean lines, and nothing that whispered of the past. My body, once just a functional vessel, had been reshaped by discipline. The midnight gym sessions had carved out definition, not for anyone else, but because the burn of iron was a tangible, honest feeling. My work had flourished in the absence of emotional drama. I'd led a project that landed a major client, and the resulting bonus had paid for the new condo's down payment. I was, by any objective measure, thriving. But the real victory was internal. The silence inside me was no longer empty. It was spacious, filled with a calm self-possession I'd never known before. When the wedding invitation for Sarah and her fiancé, Ben, arrived, I felt no dread. Only a mild curiosity. Sarah had been the one decent conduit of information. She'd never pressured me, just quietly shifted her allegiance as the truth became undeniable. Going wasn't about proving anything. It was about closing a social loop on my own terms. I asked Maya, a woman I'd been seeing casually for a few months, if she'd like to go. She was sharp, a graphic designer with a dry wit and a healthy disdain for drama. We enjoyed each other's company without clinginess. She knew the broad strokes of my past, a bad breakup with a toxic ex, and that was enough. A wedding full of your ex's friends? She'd said, raising an eyebrow. Sounds like a potential horror movie. I'm in. I'll bring popcorn. The wedding was at a renovated barn venue in the hills. As we walked in, I felt Maya's hand slip comfortably into the crook of my arm. I was in a tailored navy suit that fit my new frame perfectly. I felt calm, present. I saw Jenna within 10 minutes. She was standing near the bar, alone, holding a glass of champagne like it was a prop. She wore a dress I recognized, one she'd bought for a friend's wedding we'd attended together over a year ago. It looked loose on her. Her face, once so animated, was drawn, her eyes scanning the room with a hunted look. The vibrant, cruel woman from the kitchen was gone, replaced by a ghost in a familiar costume. She saw me. Her body went rigid. I watched her eyes travel from my face, down the suit, to Maya beside me. Maya, who was laughing at something the bartender said, her head thrown back, confident and radiant in a simple emerald green dress. The comparison was brutal and instantaneous. I saw the punch of it hit Jenna in the stomach. Her free hand fluttered to her midsection. I gave a slight, neutral nod in her direction and turned to introduce Maya to a couple from my old kickball league. I was pleasant, engaged. I laughed easily. I could feel Jenna's gaze like a physical weight on my back for the next hour. During the reception, after dinner, Maya hit the dance floor with Sarah's cousins. I stayed at our table, sipping a whiskey, watching the joyful chaos with a smile. The air shifted beside me. She stood there, her champagne glass empty. Up close, the damage was more evident. Fine lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. A fragility in her posture. "Alex," she said. Her voice was a raspy version of its old self. "Jenna," I replied. My tone was the same one I'd used for a vague acquaintance. Polite, distant. "You look good," she managed. The words seemed to cost her. "Thanks." I didn't return the compliment. I took another sip, my eyes drifting back toward the dance floor where Maya was now attempting to teach the electric slide to a bewildered Ben. The silence between us stretched, thick with everything unsaid. She cleared her throat. I don't know what to say." She looked down at her hands, twisting the stem of her glass. "I saw the news. About Mark. Everything. I waited. I wasn't going to help her. He was everything you said he wasn't," she whispered, the confession pulled from her like a rotten tooth. Her eyes welled up, the tears genuine this time. Tears of self-pity and shattered delusion. "He used me. He took money, jewelry. He left me with a credit card bill I can't pay. The police, they treated me like I was an accomplice. Everything you gave me, everything we had, it was real. And I destroyed it. I was so stupid. She let the tears fall, waiting for the old Alex to surface. The fixer, the comforter, the man who would see her pain and rush to absorb it, to make it his problem to solve. She was presenting her brokenness as an offering, a key she believed would still fit the lock. I set my whiskey glass down on the table with a soft, definitive clink. I looked at her directly, my gaze steady and utterly clear. "I know about Mark," I said, my voice even. "Sarah told me. I saw the news article." Her head snapped up, hope flaring in her wet eyes. "So you see," she breathed, taking a half step closer. "You see what he did to me? What I went through. I learned my lesson, Alex. God, I learned it in the worst way. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." She was leaning into the apology now, expecting it to be the bridge. She was ready for him to say, "It's okay," or "I'm sorry that happened to you." She was ready for the drama of reconciliation. I didn't move. I didn't reach for a napkin to offer her. I simply mirrored her own logic back to her, my tone as calm as a lake at dawn. "Go call your ex, Jenna." She blinked, confused. The script was wrong. I continued, the final piece slotting into place with cold, perfect precision. "I'm sure he'll satisfy your apologies too." For a second, there was no reaction. Then, the meaning detonated behind her eyes. It wasn't anger I saw first. It was a profound, gutting horror. The cruelty she'd weaponized in our kitchen had been refined, polished, and handed back to her, not as a scream, but as a quiet, unimpeachable truth. I wasn't rejecting her with my emotion. I was rejecting her with her own. The color drained completely from her face. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The hope crumpled into ashes. She took an involuntary step back, as if the words had physical force. Before she could form a syllable, a laugh rang out beside us. Maya slipped her arm around my waist, her face flushed and happy from dancing. "Sorry, that got wild," she said, grinning up at me, then noticing Jenna. "Oh, hot." Jenna stared at Maya's hand on my waist, at the easy intimacy, at the living, breathing proof of my moved-on life. She looked like she'd been slapped. I turned to Maya, my posture softening instantly, a real smile touching my lips. "Maya, this is Jenna, an old friend." "Jenna, this is my girlfriend, Maya, an old friend." The ultimate demotion, the final erasure. Not the great love, not the devastating loss. An old friend, a footnote. Maya extended a hand, warm and oblivious to the nuclear winter she was witnessing. "Nice to meet you." Jenna's hand trembled as she reached out for a limp, brief shake. She couldn't speak. Her eyes were locked on mine, screaming a silent, desperate plea that found no purchase. "We were just catching up," I said to Maya, my voice light. "Ready to head back out? I think I saw a photo booth." "Absolutely," Maya said, beaming. I gave Jenna one last, casual nod. "Take care of yourself." Then I turned, guiding Maya gently by the small of her back, and walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel the void I left behind her, the absolute, crushing understanding that had settled in its place. The man she broke had vanished. The man who remained was someone she didn't know and could never reach. He was healed, whole, and irrevocably gone. As we stepped into the cool night air later, Maya squeezed my hand. "She seemed intense," she said lightly. I looked up at the clear, star-dusted sky, took a deep breath of the free, untainted air, and felt the last, faint shadow of that old life dissolve into nothing. "She was," I said, bringing Maya's hand to my lips for a brief kiss. "A lifetime ago." And it was true. In the quiet, spacious peace I now carried with me, Jenna and her chaos were not even a memory. They were irrelevant. And that was the most satisfying conclusion of all. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.